Hello, I'm Glenn W. Hunter, and this is TIPS IE, Trauma-Informed Prevention Services of the Inland Empire. And joining me today, we have Shor Denny, Joyce Clark, and James "That Yoga Dude" Woods. And what we're talking about today is community trauma at the polls. We can't deny it. The elections are coming. Our community is screaming for attention. There are things that really need to be focused on, and we brought out 3 of them today that we're going to talk about in depth because it really affects what's going on with the folks that we serve, not just in the Inland Empire, but also the way trauma is being imposed on people of color, people in those communities. Through legislative manners. So let's jump right in. First one we want to talk about is Proposition 16. And what Proposition 16 means succinctly is if we were to look at it and you were to vote in favor of it, it would allow public colleges, universities, and agencies to include race, sex, color, ethnicity, and country of origin as part of their decision making. A no vote talks about, opportunities would be closed to minorities and marginalized and immigrant people. So that's how it looks more or less now. So the question that comes to mind, should race, color, ethnicity, country of origin be part of the admissions discussion as we look at our public colleges, universities, and even other agencies? Does it matter still?
I think for universities and institutions, especially now as in this during the COVID area, they're going to be reaching more for different diverse and inclusive student populations. So they're going to be trying to attract more diverse because people have more options of not being on campus. So they're going to widen out their reach, they're going to widen out their net. And they want to see from a numbers standpoint, who are we getting in? Is it the African Americans? Is it more women? Is it that? Is it this? So I don't know if it's going to help the educational and academic side, but I think the focus is going to be heavily on the capitalistic side, the side of who are we bringing in? Who's our customer? How are we getting in? And how we're going to focus them? And I wouldn't want them to focus on one particular population instead of leaving out the general population. So it depends on how they do it and how they move forward, but I hope they use it in a way that's going to help people academically.
That's interesting that you bring it up that way, James, because Prop 209 is what they're looking to strike down. Well, going back, Martin Luther King and Andrew Young and all of them fought for civil rights and affirmative action to have this in place. Black folks were asleep at the wheel in 1996. And let it end with Prop 209. Now it's back on the table. But the way that universities got around Prop 209 when it was law, no preferential treatment, they would look at diversity through the lens of geography, for admissions. And they would view this as a way to get around some of that, or they would reach out to nonprofit organizations and faith-based organizations to say, send me your best African American, send me your best Latino student who's in an inner city high school and is not looking at college because of the finances. And they would be able to throw some scholarships their way. You bring up a very valid point that universities didn't lie down and say, okay, 209, only the whitest and the brightest get in. And we wind up with leaders right now in the 20th century, 21st century, that came through affirmative action and without it would not have been able to succeed.
So are you saying, I love the discussion, but I'm confused in the proposition. So we're talking about 22, Proposition
16. No, 16.
Proposition 16, a yes means?
It would allow affirmative action to come back. You can look at race, you can look at ethnicity and decide to admit that person to Harvard, Yale, Howard University, Spelman.
Well, I just like what James said, because statistics are based on a whole bunch of different questions, demographic questions, schools, colleges have been doing it just in a different way, right? Using a different formula. So I don't see how we cannot list some of the descriptionary information. Don't think we need to list race. I think that we need to find another way. And right, this is the whole challenge for everything. And that's the whole argument of Black versus African American. Who are we? What are we? And how do we represent ourselves? I think that it has to be at this point, because we are still so in this, the protests and our president being racist, which has been stated openly, shows that this country is not ready for it to be like no race matters, you know, where, oh, we don't have to look at race. It has to come back on the books. We need affirmative action, or they are going to continue, and they, meaning those in power, are going to be able to continue to suppress.
And statistically, I heard that one of the greatest benefactors of affirmative action were white women who were able to get into the affirmative action. So if we, I'd have to look at it more. If we look at this bill, is it saying, okay, all these people are minorities. If you're not a white male, you're a minority. So then does that move white women up? Is there a quota for that where, okay, we got 10 white women, that covers us for everything, we're good? I think I will need to know a little bit more about it. I definitely will need to know a little bit more about it, how it works. Is there a quota? Is there a way that can make it happen? And even looking at it, it opens up a broader question into the system of is this still something that we need? Is this still something that we need, where we have to have bills and laws to encourage more African Americans, more other people of color or whatever, into getting a higher education? Or is it lower down in the system where we have to look at K through 12? Why are people not, as you said before, Joyce, falling asleep at the wheel, not taking advantage of these opportunities that are out there? I think it opens up a broader question into the system, even I know into the system of criminal system, education system, all these different breakdowns in the system. And I definitely would like to know which direction to move forward in policy, so it could be a cohesive move, instead of just taking pieces of the system. Say, okay, we're gonna vote here, yes, and then we're gonna vote there, no, and then we cross and mix, and we don't know what we really want to say yes and no to. So I think it is. I would like to see how this has implications on the whole systemic issues that we face.
I'm going
to be really focused, James. I like the point you made about looking down into the K through 12 pipeline. Right. Looking at what's going on at higher education. I think that we also have to be mindful as we're studying what's going on at that level to prepare youth for their college experience. The college experience continues to happen. So we want to be mindful that if we're studying it at an earlier age, trying to make sure we get it right, non-people of color are matriculating through, frankly, very exceptional college systems here in California. So while we're studying it, they're still progressing. And I don't think that's from a long-term perspective.
Well, James brought up business. This is not just education. This is also business. He brought up white women getting the contracts because they do fulfill the affirmative action quota. One of the rebuttals came from a civil rights attorney, a Black man, who said, all a white company has to do is put a woman up front as window dressing, or a Black person up front as window dressing, and get the contract from the city or the state or the federal government, until the layer is peeled back from the onion and they're exposed. There's always going to be that kind of abuse of any kind of legislature, or trying to get around it. But just the point is, I'm driving home, is it's not just education, but this decision will also affect businesses. So James, your business, you have maybe, and you know that you're the best qualified and the lowest bidder, and you don't get it, and you have nothing to lean on because affirmative action is still under Prop 209, is still outlawed. So this helps some and it gives an advantage to others.
I am older and I have personal experience. So when I started my career, I was in San Diego. In San Diego, they have these huge skyscrapers in downtown San Diego. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people can work in one building. When I first started working, I did temp work. So my resume went to the businesses before I did, right? And they picked me off of my skills. And I would go into these buildings. Now, in 1981, Reagan took office and he killed affirmative action. And when he did that, I was working. I had just started my career. I was able to go in places and I felt that in the beginning that there was opportunity. But when he did what he did, all the Black people were gone. All of the people of color were, I mean, they lost their opportunity. So because I have an odd name, was able to get into businesses because they only saw my resume. And when I got there, because of discrimination, they could not let me go. So
Right.
I'd work alone, one Black person in a building that can house 2,500 employees, and I'm the only one, you guys. This is affirmative action. The fact that the only reason I was there was because they couldn't figure out who I was before they saw me.
I want
That
to use
is
that
affirmative action.
as a great example of the power of understanding the numbers, understanding the system as it moves, not just from the high school or the college or education level, but into the professional ranks. There is a legitimate pipeline that this impacts.
Mm-hmm.
And now that pipeline gets even more broad when you start thinking about our independent workers, our rideshare folks, Lyft, Uber, DoorDash. Those people who are going to be affected by Proposition 22 now will have to change the way they operate. Instead of being independent and work when and where and for how long they please, now there's a proposition that says this law needs to evolve so that now there are employees with benefits, but also where management can control their time.
That's right.
That is contradictory to how these businesses first launched. Largely, it's contradictory to their success. And frankly, it's going to inhibit people of color from pursuing the American dream on their terms, where they're right now positioned to basically fulfill a need, earn a living, and in many cases, that has replaced the fact that they've lost jobs because of the pandemic and the associated economic turmoil. Is that right? Should they be allowed to keep those jobs as independent contractors?
No. Yeah, I'm sorry, not no. I said, what I meant to say was they should keep them, but we have to strike down Assembly Bill 5, which started this all this confusion. Remember, you could only work up to a certain amount of hours, or if you were a journalist, you could only file a certain amount of stories. Then you got fired, then you got let go. If the LA Times or some magazine didn't make you an employee. It kills entrepreneurship. And what it says is that the young Black college student, the person who just moved from Detroit to California, doesn't have a job, let me go knock somebody in the head and take their purse. Let me go rob someplace.
Or get on welfare.
Or get on welfare, right? Let me hurry up and have a baby so I can get on welfare and stay there. Lyft and Uber and DoorDash and all the other hop, skip, ride were all quick money generators for people who were out of work. Okay, you got Christmas coming up. Your kid needs a computer. All three need a computer, bicycles, whatever. We know. So dad goes out and does some DoorDash. New Year's Eve, where they tell you don't drive if you've been drinking. This is a wonderful opportunity for Lyft and Uber to safely get you home. All of this will be gone. And remember, Lyft and Uber went to court and they got an injunction to hold off until, I believe, November they're going to leave California. Lyft and Uber are going to leave the state of California if they have to make their independent drivers employees.
And I think this is a case of government or bureaucracy being behind industry, innovation, and culture. This is where young people are going. This is where older people are going. This is just where industry is going, period, and culture is going. Where this is what culture and the people have said. This is a service that we need. And also, as the employers, this is a source of income that we need, and we like it this way. The government has not found the possible way to tax it in a way that works for them. So I think even if it does pass or if it is restricted now back, it's going to move forward, just like marijuana was, where people were saying, hey, we need this, we want this to happen. So government, you figure it out, but we're doing this. It has to happen because the opportunities are too great, especially now, as we said, with so many people. Once again, COVID, you have industries moving online, and people still need to get around. People still need to move. But if you lost your physical job because the store closed down, here's a chance to pick up some income. Here's a chance to get out, network, socialize, sell your mixtape or whatever, because you're playing it the whole time, whatever's going on. But I just think the government is going to have to catch up to what the people is crying out for, what they need: safety reasons, financial reasons, and just cultural reasons.
Well, these are bills, right? So these are for us to decide, not government, right?
Yes.
For us
No.
Our choices.
It's your choices, but the government wants some of that money.
Right.
Uber and Lyft come from Europe. The fiscal impact, if this is passed that you have to become an employee, the fiscal impact is that you'll be paying more taxes. You got 3 jobs, and
So
one of them is an Uber driver. So more taxes.
So do you think that they're trying to simply just get money or shut down industry? I mean,
No, this started AB 5 by a female legislator who totally had no idea about this industry. She was looking at it from the standpoint that gig workers need to become employees so they can have benefits. By the time her and her group finished putting criteria on it, it killed the photojournalist, it killed the freelance writer, it killed James's industry of yoga, it killed all of the entrepreneurial industries. So, but these are not mostly are not people's primary job. For most of them, they're secondary or temporary while they go get their PhD.
so it was a no to 16 for me. And for this one, if we are wanting, lifting them to stay the way they are, it's a no to 22?
Well, you're voting, I'm sorry, you vote yes. You want them to stay independent employees. You want them to stay independent employees.
So 22, yes. 16, no. 22, yes.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just because it's all confusing, right? It's all
That's right.
I'm going to take notes because when I read this stuff, I get confused and mixed up on which way anything is going. So I know that I think Indivisible 41's website has a listing of all of these propositions clear. And I know that the, Women's League of Voters has it on their website as well, where it's very clear. You can look and see who is funding each side of it. And, it's sitting there so you can read it over and over. And I know the ballots are coming out. But if we're going to talk about it, I just, I'm getting lost in the numbers. So I just want to say, so 16 no, 22 yes. That's the scorecard.
And the voter registration website is also a place to go, because the guide that you get at home, your voter's guide that you get at home, I sit down and read that like a book, because people are allowed to rebuttal, to give their reasons why their group is for it or against it. There are arguments for and against to give you knowledge. I agree with you, Shor. I'd look at other areas as well. League of Women Voters, that's a credible website, just so that I could begin to get a better composite picture of what this proposition is all about.
Yeah, because they mix you up in the wording, and you don't know if you're which way you're voting when you
That's
vote.
right.
You know,
That's right.
so
On purpose.
yeah,
Yes.
and that coming back to our theme is very number one frustrating, which brings on anxiety, right?
That's
And
right.
anxiety for voting because you don't know what you're gonna and you don't know the impact of your vote. You know, we now know that because they are trying to stop our vote, that our vote matters, right? We know that there's
That's
some
right.
value to it. So now that we know there's some value to it, now we got to worry about putting it in the right place, putting our weight in the right place, right? So the anxiety of when you sit down and open that booklet is high for me when I sit down, and I'm not a very technical reader. So when I sit down and read it, I have to kind of go through it and through it. I'll highlight things and flip to the back.
Yes.
I mean, it's a
Yes.
project for me. So I feel that, you know, sometimes we need to let our viewers and Americans know that being a active American takes time. There are things that we have to do. It's not, you know, we're going to have to sit down, read these things, discuss them like we are, and come up with your view, you
That's
know,
right.
of how you're going to do it, so that when you get to the poll, you know, you write it in your booklet, your ballot. So, you know, when you get there, it's already laid out and you're not anxious when you step into the poll.
And that's the trauma of any election. You're anxious.
Yeah.
And then if you say no and the majority says yes and it passes, and then you look at your life down the line and saying, oh man, I should have said yes. So, oh gosh, I tell you.
Well, as we move forward, because we have one more we want to discuss, so that we are prepared and we've given it some thought and explicitly generated dialogue, is Proposition 23 regarding dialysis clinics, which is something that is basically a benefit that's very prevalent, again, in the communities for people of color. You know, dialysis involves a high-risk health issue.
Well, please, Glenn, add that we have to go back to the Uber and Lyft. People on dialysis cannot drive. They're not allowed to drive.
Yes.
So who do they use if mom, dad, grandmother, niece, nephew is unavailable?
Let's do that, Joyce, and add mental health care, because they're using
That's right.
Uber to get mental wellness patients back and forth from therapy.
That's right.
To
That's
Dr.
right.
point. So I think our whole medical, you know, establishment, they're using Ubers and Lyfts to transport patients, most definitely.
Right.
So as we're bringing all of this together, because you're absolutely correct, ladies, in the sense that the oppression literally continues to multiply as it commingles, which makes it even more important that we're understanding the impact of the legislation. So the question remains, should we be regulating dialysis so that it requires an on-site doctor, a physician, a high-priced physician, because ultimately that increases the cost of Medicare to patients and also to the tax burden.
But that's the key. The state has been trying to get into this private industry forever. If you're a dialysis person, you only have two clinics to go to: a DaVita clinic and Francis clinic. Thank you. I'm not pronouncing it correctly. They're private, which means, and they run 24/7. If you're in the hospital, you've gone for some other illness, they call DaVita to come in and give you your dialysis. The state is not making enough money. They can only tax your Social Security Part B, I believe, or you have a copay, depending upon what kind of insurance you have. And dialysis is 3 days a week. They're cleaning your blood. You're sitting there for 3 to 5 to 8 hours. So, and I'm just going to throw out a crazy figure. At the end of the year, your bill could be $150,000 for dialysis. And you're getting already doctors coming through the dialysis clinic. The mental health physician comes through the dialysis clinic because most of these people have some kind of depression, whether it's low depression, acute depression. They are depressed. They're already traumatized. So to add a burden to them of paying more to not get well. This is a lifelong issue.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it's back on the ballot. We said no already to this. So
Thank
it's
you.
back on the ballot. So my question is, will it matter if we vote Biden in? Because we're going back to Obamacare full force, and won't all this be covered? So,
But this is state. This is state. The California Department of Public Health has to get some more money out of people, out of dying people. They want to regulate that there is a doctor. We want to take the doctor from his private practice, from the hospital in the emergency room, and have him trolling the halls of clinics. It could be
you
3
know who's
o'clock in the
paying
morning.
for it? Who's paying for this?
It would be the dialysis person.
No, who's paying for this bill?
I don't know who's paying
Question.
for this bill, but like I said, it would be regulated by the California Department of Health.
Because,
Who-
I mean, again, because it came back. I mean, I'm just, it's back when we said no the first time. I don't
Right.
think any of the language changed, and it's
Probably
back in
not.
our faces. So I'm just wondering who has all that money to keep putting something we don't want back on the ballot.
If you keep putting it on there, you know, it's like advertising. If you keep saying it enough, after a while, it sounds like it's true. So let's do
Right.
it. Yeah.
Well, we want to be mindful of that influence, but also, encourage, again, the communities that we serve to be mindful of what is in their best interest. And obviously being mindful of the cost and the possibility of increasing costs, as well as the bureaucracy, is not in our best interest.
Think of the person that needs dialysis and their mental health right now.
Right.
Yep.
No.
You know, everything's on the line for them right now. Again, I mean, I'd feel like they were after me, and then they're already in a depressive state.
Yep.
How does this help their health? And why is it, I mean, I guess it's right that everybody should choose their fate. It just doesn't seem right to me, though. I think that this should be a part of just general health care. I don't think that dialysis should be outside of a medical program.
It isn't. It's just that the dialysis clinics are privately owned and run, and the state really needs to get that revenue.
I don't know. We might need more time, might have needed more time on this one, because I'm questioning DaVita and this other one. Why are they the only ones? I mean, is this a monopoly? I go to a whole nother side of it. Are they providing the best care? And
Absolutely.
Diversified. Maybe we do need to look at, is it the, are they doing this the best way? But I don't, the way that it's been worded, I don't agree with, but I do not also agree with medical care being private. I think that it should be a part of a system.
When you're on dialysis, your Medi-Cal and your Medicare pay for it. DaVita, as a private industry, trains their people. They're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have stringent guidelines. When you're at DaVita, you have 2 people who take care of you for that 3 to 5 hours that your blood is being cleaned. And you know those people. They are really your physicians. They're technicians, but they act like physicians. If you're depressed today, they make a phone call to your doctor. They make a phone call to your practitioner. And that person can either come then or get you at home. If you leave there and your weight is down or you're feverish, they call your doctor and say, we are not letting Shor go because she's got a fever. And when Uber comes to pick you up, they may put you in it or cancel that ride because they are extremely concerned. They'll send you home in an ambulance in a heartbeat.
This sounds like
to the hospital.
This sounds like personal knowledge that you're providing here.
Yes, my girlfriend is on dialysis, and she had to have drivers when she first started, and then she was able to drive herself. And then her heart got weaker, so she had to give up driving. So I'm there with her every Saturday. Saturday was my day. And I watched the care, the over the top care that they gave. And I'm gowned up, I'm masked up to be in there because the place is so incredibly hygienically clean. They don't wipe down, they wash down the chair before you get in it, all the instruments. So there's very personal technician and physician care at these clinics.
Cool.
And as you said, personal care made me think about us going into this voting season. Voting in politics is very personal for each and every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want us to remember to take that time to reflect, to take a deep breath, to relax, to have that self-care routine built in. We know there's been a lot of trauma around politics and power with Black folks, people of color, minorities. We know there's continuous trauma in that. So being able to clearly think, to clearly process, to clearly take in all the information that is out there, take some time just to relax, to breathe, to stay mindful, to have the discussions, have the debates, and then also have the circle of people that are just going to make you feel good and agree with you and help you process the information as well. So being able to take care of yourself, taking a deep breath. And when you are in line, if you are in line or if you're filling out your ballot via mail, take a second, breathe. You have that time, you have that opportunity to just relax your shoulders. And the pressure of the world is not on you, just you being able to creatively or just to express your thoughts and your needs. Just thinking about that. This is what I'm looking for. This is me doing my small part for my world to take that pressure off and just for you to be present as you vote and help change your world and make a better place for yourself.
You take that, man, your voice was calming my shoulders.
I know.
I was like, oh.
So now that we are in a place of calm, let's bring this in for a landing because these are tense times. And again, James addressed that perfectly as we try and make sure we're making the best decisions that impact not just our communities, but each and every one of us as individuals. So we'd like to encourage you to be informed about these legislative influences and the others, because they do impact our everyday lives. But as we're winding up this time with Tips IE, Joyce, would you tell our folks how to reach us?
Thank you so much, Glenn. To call us, you can dial 951-282-7173. Again, 951-282-7173. And for those who just love email, tips.inlandempirecal, C-A-L, @gmail.com. Again, tips, T-I-P-S, .inlandempirecal, C-A-L, @gmail.com. We really would appreciate hearing your opinion. We want you to weigh in, and we also want you to think calmly, as James told us, and rationally about this election.
Again, on behalf of Joyce Clark, James Woods, Shor Denny, we are Tips IE. And as we always conclude, we encourage you all to be safe.
Go vote.
Yes.
Vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.